What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk about the Kansept Knives Foosa. This is designed by Rolf Helbig, who's actually just an is an enthusiast, not necessarily a knife designer. This is a double-detent fidget freak of a knife. So you can see, I'll just get this out of the way. I may end up fidgeting with this a whole lot more, but you can kind of see this is not a locking knife, so definitely can be handled one-handed without a problem. It does contain a pocket clip here, so actually pocket's nice in the sense of, you know, a non-locking knife you think of more traditional, but in this case, really with the one-hand operation, yeah, definitely has some of the modern accoutrements as well as some of the materials. This knife weighs 3.1 ounces, comes in 154 cm blade steel, which is a good mid-range steel. And it measured 3.30 inches on that blade. So it is a smidgen over 3 inches if those legal limits come into play for you. And it prices at $87. I think I got this one at White Mountain Knives. You can find some discounts with other folks out there where you can get maybe 10% off. I think I used Lefty EDC's 10% discount at White Mountain Knives and ended up getting like 10% off. So it ends up in about the $80 range. There are many different variants of this one, lots of different scale colors, and there's even a liner locking version of this one, but I didn't necessarily want yet another liner locking knife. For the most part, kind of being a collector and enthusiast, I really went for something different with this one. In terms of, you know, use case comparisons, I don't have another double detent. Ones that really I think would, in a true use case comparison, compare to this knife, would be like the Civivi Appalachian Drift, and then also the Artisan Cutlery Archaeo, though the Archaeo actually has a little hole here as well as a little pin that you can lanyard on and actually make this into a locking knife. Again, this knife does not lock, so it just utilizes two detent holes on the blade, and one keeps it locked in the closed position, and then the other one keeps it, I won't even say locked, closed, held shut. So yeah, you know, that's kind of first and foremost. In terms of an actual kind of carry comparison for myself, I had to think of it in terms of something that I have to use a little bit more conscientiously because it does not lock. And in terms of like size and, you know, kind of neat materials, or neat looking, for me, I had the, this is the Case Knives large trapper. This is in the Kieranite, so kind of, you know, beautiful looking knife. And in terms of kind of blade length, it was kind of similar. Obviously, this is a much taller one with the Kansept Foosa. But, you know, that's what I kind of felt in terms of a carry. And, of course, I can't really, with this Case Knives, you have to use it two hands. So that's just kind of where that ends. But it did kind of carry similarly. It was a little bit heavier, of course. The Case has two knives, two blades. This one just has the one. So, you know, let's jump right into the pros of this knife. It's obviously extremely fidgety. I went through thousands, literally thousands of iterations of this, just sitting there and playing with it, and it runs on bearings. It never did fail on me, so that's obviously, this is really good. The 154 cm steel seems to have been heat treated well, so I think it's actually, there's nothing wrong with the steel on this one. Actually, it seems a little bit more premium than maybe this one necessitated, since I do not recommend using this one for a lot of you know, a lot of heavy duty use. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I never had to resharpen this at all or even touch it up. For the things that I used it for and kind of suggest using it for, you know, 154 cm was good. And in fact, I think the materials overall were really good. This particular one, and this one does cost a little bit more, has the carbon fiber. I kind of like the rose pattern here on this carbon fiber. Looks really nice, and it's actually contoured nicely. So they did utilize good materials, I think, overall. The clip is actually titanium, or if it's not titanium, I'm pretty sure it is. It's definitely non-ferrous because a magnet did not stick to it. So that's, you know, like I said, as far as the materials go, did a really good job. It's something different for collectors. For me, I had seen a few of these double detents knives out there, and I was like, which one am I going to get? I have enough Civivis, and I actually have enough Artisan cutleries, so I said, you know what, I don't have any Kansept knives, so I'm going to go for this Foosa. And in that sense, works really well. Definitely one of the pros of this thing. And like I said, I think, again, the contouring of these scales is actually really nice in the hand. I would strongly suggest only holding this one in a hammer grip and never using a saber grip, for the sole purpose of, your thumb can push that in, and that's where we get into some of the cons of this knife, in which case, or in fact, let's go ahead and just jump right into those cons, because those are really the key pros on that one. Oh, there was one more pro I wanted to bring in. It does have this decent slip. It's not super expensive, but the knife can go into this, and actually, in that sense, as a traditional goes, it's kind of appreciated, because this one, again, it's one of those where you don't want to be just floating this around. The way it behaves, I think going in that slip is kind of a nice thing. You could put it in another pocket, throw it somewhere else. So yeah, I didn't mind that little case here. Decent. On the cons, they chose a tanto blade. That really makes no sense. It kind of looks nice. It's the kind of more traditional Japanese tanto, where it has the rounding, and then it doesn't go into a sharp there. It just has that little bit of tip there. Why? It doesn't make sense though, because the whole point of a tanto blade is that you get to retain your tip strength out at the tip, and this is a knife that you're never going to be safely piercing with anything hard. Don't try to do that, because the whole point of that is if you needed to pierce through something hard with this non-locking blade, you're asking for a very dangerous situation right there. So the choice of, I think, of a tanto was a pretty bad one. I think a reverse tanto would have been fine. They could have kept the straight back knife here for that nice fidgetingness, and then just kind of clipped the top part of that and made this more of Warncliffe style back here, and just made that reverse tanto up there. That would have made a lot more sense also from the perspective of it is very safe to utilize this knife holding it in such a way that you would be doing draw cuts like that. But with the belly here on this tanto, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to do draw cuts. You don't get to really see well. So that was, I think, a pretty big miss, probably the biggest miss on this one. Do not use this as a hard use knife. Definitely one of the cons. Like I said, it's safe. I found it very safe to use in any sort of drawing away where you're drawing, away from you on a surface, so that it could never come loose like that. But never do anything where you're going to be leading with the tip like that, and especially where you have your hands in the way of that path. That it's just a really, you have to end up using this very consciously. Works great for pull cuts, because really there's no situation in a pull cut where you would have the blade that could collapse back on you. So this knife would be fine for pull cuts and good for any sort of drawing away from you slices like that. Just never, like I said, never anything in a saber grip, or where you're going to have the tip leading the way. It's going to be a real big problem. So yeah, don't plan on this as a piercing knife and that sort of thing. And really, the big con kind of, it ties into all of that, is this is a knife that unfortunately you have to conscientiously use, and you can't just kind of put it in your pocket, clip it in, pull it out, and use it for just about any purpose for everyday carry. You have to make sure that you're not using it for those tip forward tasks and things like that, or where you might be using a saber grip for those purposes. So that's really kind of it. In fact, one of the other things I just want to kind of demonstrate, this is not a scientific thing at all, but let's go into grams. So in terms of just the force necessary to release that, this thing only goes up to about like 230 grams of force. And so that thing definitely pops back very easy. As one simple example, my very lowest pull weight slip joint is this Queen City Canoe. And this one, literally, this is about a 3 pull weight as far as slip joints go. And even this knife goes into like the 400 or 500 grams before it gets to a release pressure there. So in that sense, you really, really got to know what you're getting into, and just know that you're not going to have something that that has a strong release weight. And so it's about the fidgeting on this one. I mean, we just got to be honest about that. So we kind of talked about those. Overall, really, I would say the materials really make this thing a positive. The fact that it's something new and different is useful. Certainly for the collector and enthusiast. They didn't skimp out on the materials. That was kind of a good thing. But for $90, or approximately $90, or $80 to $90, this is not a great primary knife. This is definitely one of those where you maybe have a secondary knife and you utilize this slip and put it in there and you pull it out for, certain uses. It was great to use that where the tanto, where the flat meets the the front edge of there for opening boxes, because you can get that edge right on there. And you know, that was good. It was great for letter opening. Like I said, anything where you're drawing away feet was fine. But it's just hard to recommend this as kind of a primary knife. For myself, I'm actually going to, just from a safety perspective, I'm actually going to kind of turn this into a small project. And I'm going to actually cut a choil in there that's about a half of a thumb, just like that. Primarily so that if I can use this in a saber grip, and if it is to close a little bit, see, that's going to actually cut me right there. I'll at least have a good, you know, finger's width of use where I won't be cutting into my finger. I just, you know, since I'm going to be using this for light duty and that sort of thing, plus I thought it'd be kind of fun to go ahead and cut in a choil in there. You know, you're going to be losing, what, about half an inch of blade usage. So overall, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but overall, I was trying to really figure a good use case for this, and it is kind of a secondary knife where you want something different. You know, that's principally it. Definitely not a good primary knife for myself, certainly, but your mileage may vary, and if you know, cannot have a locking knife wherever you are, this is felt relatively reasonable as a 3-inch blade. So hope you did enjoy this. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and have a great day. Take care now.